trying to figure out ultimately what is.
It's still a mystery as to why it took them. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Primetime Crime. I'm Lauren Conlin with my favorite co-host, Jarrett Ferrantino. What's up, Jarrett?
Good evening, Lauren. Good evening, everyone.
Hope everyone's having a great week. Happy Hump Day. I have no real plans this weekend. Do you have anything going on?
Nothing crazy, I don't think. Coming to New York next week, though.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, we'll have dinner. We'll have fun. You and Jay and I will catch up on some mayhem and whatever else is going on. Well, we hope that you all enjoyed the live we did yesterday, sort of impromptu. We really, really love discussing the case of Veronica and Jillian just because we feel very close to it and we want to see justice done. And I did another recording yesterday about Delphi. And actually, it was with Susan Hendricks. I was just a guest, and Susan was a guest. And it was fascinating to listen to what she had to say. Susan was very fair in saying that, yes, there were police missteps. A lot of things fell through the cracks. But she said being there in the courtroom from day one, including jury selection, she believes that Richard Allen did get a fair trial. I think that, yeah, if you're looking through the lens of a defense attorney, sure, you might have different views, I guess. I mean, right? We're kind of brought up in our certain ways or our certain training to view things certain ways, but I don't know. It made me feel better to hear her say that.
Well, and I think Susan's been pretty objective. She is close with the victim's family. Again, I don't fault her for that. But at the same time, she's sharp and she did it. You know, she's done some objective reporting on the case. I don't feel like she's torn emotionally that she can't say Allen got a fair trial. I think he did. I don't know. Like I said, I don't necessarily know where the courts are going to come down on Judge Gull's rulings with regard to some of those third-party defenses. I think most importantly, though, one of the things we did not talk about was the jury was shown images of Allen acting really crazy in solitary confinement, partially clothed, you know, not to be salacious, but inappropriate stuff. Feces were involved and things of that nature. And then they're in a courtroom with him for 17 days, and he comports his behavior to the rules of the court. Okay. And you may say, okay, Jared, he's medicated now. He was not in solitary, or he has access to people now. Fair enough. But when you are trying to say someone was so crazy at a particular moment in time that they confessed however many dozens of times, 60, and then you see them acting sane and presenting well and communicating with their lawyers, that's a tough sell. I mean, I've been in those courtrooms where a crazy defendant is behaving themselves in front of the jury, you know, 24/7, and then good luck trying to sell them on crazy.
Right. And something that Cheryl McCollum pointed out, and you'll probably agree with this, but she said that if you are having a psychotic episode or a psychotic break, and I had to look this up after, and a lot of reports do echo this, but you're not able to express a proper timeline. I just spit on my computer, sorry. You're not able to express a proper timeline. And Richard Allen was cognitively able to say, I did this first, I did that first, then I saw Abby and Libby, I did this, then I got in the car. You know what I mean? He was able to just say everything in chronological order. So
Cheryl's right. So what you're looking for is a concept called, it's a lawyer thing, indicia of reliability, okay? Basically, you're looking for things that would suggest these are not the things of a crazy person. This is someone of sound mind. Chronology is important. Facts are important. Facts that nobody else would know. Again, I can't just say I was the second gunman on the grassy knoll. I have to offer something in support of that.
Yeah.
Me, and not to be redundant, the number one thing was he was looking for forgiveness. That's not crazy. That's remorse. That's somebody who knows what they did, knows what he's about to get off his chest, and knows, what do I do going forward? Am I going to have my mom and my wife in my life? That is someone who is quite in control of their faculties. If you're crazy, the last thing you're worried about is if people are going to be pissed off with what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a good point. If you're crazy, you're not going to be like, yeah, that's such a good point. And Susan, she's a great storyteller, but she shared some information about when Richard Allen's daughter took the stand and how his daughter could not even look at him. And it was, they asked questions like, do you love your father? Yes. Is that your, yes. And, but she said it was very clear that there was a family divide where the daughter felt like he was guilty. So it was.
Another thing Susan said that we didn't touch on was when they were playing the recording of Allen's interview with the police, he said the word down,
Yeah.
What Bridge Guy said to the girls was, guys, down the hill. When he said that, okay, as a human being, we have these ability to, when someone calls you on the phone, you recognize who they are. There are certain things that trigger it. She said when she heard Richard Allen say the word down, it was Bridge Guy.
Yeah. That's huge. You're right. That's so huge. And then something else, because I brought you up and I just said, we're talking about if, he got a fair trial in terms of allowing his defense to be let in. And I said, well, listen, I work and host a show with a former prosecutor who has said, let it in. Go ahead. Let it in. I'll beat your ass anyway. Like, I'll prove that you did it with your weird defense. Well, I guess with this defense, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, was there only the only proof, or I don't know, whatever, was the stick placement. That was really it.
So they're looking for facts that would suggest that it's relevant to the case. So the Odinism, the Odinism theory, as far as a crime scene goes, the runes, that's what they were called. The sticks were placed to look like runes, antlers, and things of that nature. That was one fact that would tie into paganism and Odinism. That was one major one. But there was also claims that the February 14th or 13th date were significant. The fact it was two very young girls was significant. And again, the defense put forth that expert that was arguing that. When the judge looked at it and said, I hear what this expert's saying, the only legitimate maybe tie to Odinism, the placement of branches, which could be explained away as an effort to hide the bodies. So that's why it didn't get in. That's not the only thing, though. The investigator supposedly authored a report on it.
But because now that this is kind of being broken down for me, it is kind of weird, Jarrett. Like, I guess I'm kind of like, so you want to introduce this very weird defense out of nowhere. And it's like, look, with Karen Reed, you're talking about this quote unquote conspiracy. Well, you have a phone call that would back up this conspiracy. You have other things that would maybe prompt this defense to be a part of the trial, be at the forefront here. With this, like, really, all you're saying is you've got some expert and a pile of sticks. That, I guess I might be like, that is kind of bullshit, right?
Well, again, and the expert, yes and no. I think there was a little bit more than just the placement of runes. I'm not suggesting it was legitimate. I'm saying that there was a little bit more than just the runes that were argued in support of Odinism. Here's the problem they kept running headfirst into, though. There were no Odinists on the bridge. There was Bridge Guy. It's like,
there you
go.
At
the end of the day, you can argue whatever facts you can say support this Odinistic theme, but they're also put against the facts that you actually have, which is a adult white male is moving toward these two young girls. There's nobody else there. Richard Allen says he was there. Yeah. Richard Allen has the starter kit in his house. So, and he sounds a hell of a lot like Bridge Guy. And so all of that stuff together in the face of what was argued in support of Odinism resulted in it being kept out. My concern was, why have the issue? You're easily able to dispose of that theory, just knock it out rather than have it suppressed. But again, and I'm not trying that case. It's easy for me to sit here and not have to deal with it. But I'm saying you could take that major issue out of the appeals.
Yeah, definitely. And talking to Cheryl was also very helpful in terms of like she just puts things in a perspective of like regular everyday life. In terms of things that we don't, or me, you probably think about this, you've got so much experience, but just like, it was near his house, and he was kind of like, he was a bigger guy. I mean, how far could he really hike? Did he hike often? Probably not. And I had kind of asked, well, like, did he, in the 5 years he was not caught, did he return there? Did he frequently go on hikes? Like, why did we not hear from his wife in terms of like this behavior, I guess? And
well, why didn't we hear from her? Number one, she knows his voice. Number two,
yes,
she couldn't explain it.
Right. And she also
Valentine's Day. Where were you on 2017? Where were you? What was he doing the night before Valentine's? It's a pretty simple question.
When your spouse is weird. I'm sorry. No, like you've been with your spouse for long, especially they've known each other since they were children. So she would know if he,
honestly, though, there's a lid for every pot. Weird people usually marry weird people.
There you go. I mean, that's true.
But anyway, I think like, and one thing also important too is, and I think it was Cheryl that said this, that Monon Bridge is so off the beaten path.
Yes.
She concluded that you have to be from there to know where that is and to be on that trail on that day. And she said it, he's from here. Yeah. Like, this is not an outsider, because she tried to find it on her own and was unable to do so. So I think that's another, and again, a lot of times it comes down to common things that you think about.
That's exactly common sense. I think that's so big for everybody who is, there's this kid that pops in the chat, Kevin, sometimes he always wants to learn. He's so hungry. And I think that's just such good advice. Common sense. And that's something we don't always think of.
He's watching this stuff as a child?
No, sorry. I say kid because I'm 40, whatever. He's probably like 20 something. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, the one last thing I'll say is I do want to just add that I feel that knowing Richard Allen is guilty and he committed these horrific, heinous acts against children, yes, lock him up, throw away the key, whatever. Previously, before he was convicted, I did not find it great that he was in solitary for over a year. I don't like that. And I would hate if that was my father and he was, you know what I mean? And he wasn't convicted. So I will just say that much. But now that he's guilty, I'm kind of like, well, you did.
Yeah, he's going to have a rough go of it for the next, 30 to 40
Don't kill
years.
kids. Don't kill kids. Seriously.
That's not my heart bleeding for him, but he's going to have
no.
And so plus he's a high profile. You're a kid killer. You're a high profile defendant. You have mental health issues. I mean, he checks every box. So in all likelihood, the only guy doing Richard Allen is Diddy.
Oh, God.
Diddy's in 23 and a half hours a day lockdown and no really human interaction. But
which is why
anyway, I think that the Delphi major chapter of the Delphi case is closed. Mm-hmm. I think we head toward appeal world, but Richard Allen sits in a jail cell through that process, and hopefully the conviction is safe, and those families of Abby and Libby's families can go on, and Williams and German families can go on, and
I hope so.
Their grandparents and parents and siblings, and just try to piece their lives back together.
And Susan said that Becky Patty would show up every day at court, like bringing muffins and just like putting others before herself, just like Libby would. So I thought that was just very sweet to hear. But
one thing I used to think about, and I still do, like when you have those cases and the families are coming in every day and they were so waiting for that day, and I know there's a healing, but I used to think, when this is over, I hope it's not number one, I was expecting to win for them, but even that, like, I hope they get some closure. I hope they get what they're seeking here at the courthouse, because, Abby and Libby are still gone and they got to move, and nothing really changes. Richard Allen is still in jail, and there's a major anxiety, I think, lifted, but at the same time, they still have to go on with this hole in their lives.
Right.
So I hope they find some peace, really.
Yes, and Richard Allen will be sentenced December 20th, I believe. He faces up to
Yes.
130 years in prison. So, but speaking of child killers, well, I guess I have to say alleged. Let's move on to Madeline Soto. Her mother, Jen, gets immunity. Now, just a quick refresher. Madeline Soto was reported missing on February 26th after her mother's boyfriend, Stefan Stearns, reportedly dropped her off near Hunters Creek Middle School, which is Florida. And earlier that morning, Jen Soto was woken up when her boyfriend Stearns took the dog out for a walk, but she went back to sleep. She never saw her daughter that morning. And then at some point during the day, Stearns told his girlfriend Jen that he had a factory reset on his phone while trying to update it. So Jen went to the school around 4:30 to pick up her 13-year-old daughter, but she was told that Maddie had never come to school that day, according to investigators. And in addition, her phone, Maddie's phone, was left at home. Now, she did have a tendency to run away, but this was very unusual for her. So day 2, the Orange County Sheriff's Office issued a release to the public about her disappearance, asking information on her whereabouts. And in that interview, this interview with investigators, Stearns asked exactly where he dropped Maddie off and where he went afterwards. And throughout this conversation, the detectives questioned a lot of his answers, which seemingly prompted Stefan to change his story. So day 3, February 28th, a massive search was conducted by the sheriff's office. And Orange County Sheriff John Mina said that deputies accessed Maddie Soto's phone, finding information that indicated she wanted to live in the woods when she turned 13 years old. I mean, oh my gosh, horrible. I'd rather live in the woods than a house. But he also said that deputies searched the area where she was last seen, areas where they received tips, just any place that their investigation took them, and everything came up empty. Meanwhile, Stefan Stearns and Maddie Soto's mom drove to a hotel in Orange County where they stayed with Stearns' father while their home was being investigated. So according to Jen Soto, Stearns was very panicky because he wanted his cell phone back during this time. And while she and Stearns both agreed that investigators were targeting him, she believed deep down, Maddie's mother, that he was the wrong guy. So on February 29th, Stearns was arrested as the prime suspect in Maddie's disappearance. And investigators said that they discovered hundreds of disturbing images and videos of child porn when they searched Stearns' phone and Google Drive account. And a review of the device's data showed that someone had tried to delete the evidence ahead of time. So as a result, he was arrested and held on no bond. He was charged with sexual battery and possession of child sexual abuse materials. And then it starts to come out that Stearns said he typically shared a bed with Maddie and her mom, and claiming that Maddie always needed human contact when going to sleep. But then it came out that Jen Soto didn't often sleep in the bed with them because she had trouble sleeping because of her medication, yada, yada. And then he tells them that he had accidentally performed this factory reset. And that's why everything tried to, get deleted off of his phone.
All of which was backed up on a Google cloud.
Exactly. So then they interviewed an ex-girlfriend of Stearns who described a very short relationship they had together. But he said, the girlfriend said he would refuse to spend the night with her, instead insisting that he had to stay at the home of Jen Soto and Maddie because her mom, Jen, couldn't sleep without him there. So then that's, she thought that was weird, the girlfriend. So she broke up with him after that. She thought that was super strange, which it is. And then on March 1st, during a news conference, investigators were confident that Maddie Soto was already dead, having been killed at her home before Stearns moved her body. So according to investigators, there was video evidence showing Stearns throwing items into a dumpster at the Kissimmee apartment complex around 7:35 a.m. on February 26th, which was the day she was reported missing. The sheriff's office later said they found Soto's backpack and a school-issued laptop in a dumpster. When Stearns had reportedly dropped Soto off near the school that day, investigators explained that wasn't the case. Instead, he was spotted driving a vehicle with Maddie's body inside.
Maddie's body was in the passenger side, slumped against the window. They believe she was propped into that car, dead, driven around, dead, made to look alive.
Yep. So,
and the child, and you may be getting there, but the child sexual abuse materials that his phone contained were produced by him of Maddie.
Oh, yeah. So, right. So then, they have evidence of this. And that was hard to hear, knowing that she was deceased, but sitting up, and he's just a sick person. But investigators believe that Maddie was killed at her home. And then after a very long search, they finally recovered her body from a wooded area off Hickory Tree Road in Osceola County, Florida. So investigators did speak with Maddie's mother to update her on the homicide investigation and further interview about her relationship with Stearns. And this is when she reportedly called Stearns a master liar, master manipulator. And she initially wanted to believe he was innocent, but after being shown the offensive images by police, she changed her mind. And I mean, there's a lot more here, but that is the gist of it. I will let you, if you want to go and just explain what happened afterward with Jen Soto and why.
Sure. A couple of more things. So Stearns said that he got a flat tire on at or near the highway where her body was discovered, by the way, to explain that he was in that area and had stopped the car. So really, the major development here is that these investigators have given Jen Soto immunity. And well, look, Stearns killed Maddie, or is alleged to have killed Maddie. Why would anybody be granting immunity to Jen Soto? Here's why. Because Jen Soto allowed for Stearns to sleep with Maddie alone. Okay. You allow for your ex-boyfriend at this point, by the way, they'd broken up, to sleep with your 13-year-old daughter. Okay. That's all well and good. It reminded me of that situation. Remember Michael Jackson did the interview where he was talking about young boys sleeping alone. He was like, "Where's Jack the Ripper in the room? It's a beautiful thing to share your bed." You're like, you're Jack the Ripper. Like,
right. Not appropriate.
Right. And by the way, the locks on the door in the room that Stearns shared with Maddie inside mirrored the kind of locks Michael Jackson had on his, by the way.
I didn't know that. No way.
If you look at, there's locks there were locks on the door of this makeshift room that Maddie had. And then there were locks on another room where he slept with her. There were crime scene photos where his boxer shorts were on the floor of Maddie's room. I mean, complete, like Jen Soto needed to get hit with a brick to realize that what was going on here. So she's been granted immunity.
Are you sure about that? Or is she like,
let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you, and I do not like to criticize law enforcement. I don't think those investigators they got nothing out of her. They should have been much tougher on her. They should have told her, like, do you think we're idiots? Like, how stupid do you think we are?
Oh my gosh.
He literally told Stearns to get a lawyer because they're wrongfully targeting you. She says in the interview, "I get the sex stuff is bad, but I didn't think he'd murder." Like, wait.
Can you believe that? When I heard that, the sex stuff is bad.
And she cried in the interview because it was her birthday and she was going to have a bad birthday. Like she's looking at them the whole time. You talk about the physical signs of a liar. She's looking at them like, "Are you buying this bullshit? Are you like?" That's literally the look she's giving them. Like, in my opinion, set the table for this molestation, rape, and murder. That's it. I mean, she set the table for this. Now the question is, what if anything, could she have been or should she have been charged with? Okay. Now, some people are taking the position, what could you charge Jen Soto with? In my opinion, okay, she was neglecting Madeline and allowing her to stay with Stearns, period. She should have known that abuse was going on. Now, they have her phone. They have Stearns' phone. They wiped, whether Stearns did the factory reset or not, there was information gleaned from backup information on his phone. In the interview with Jen Soto, they take her phone. Voluntarily sense with her phone being searched. I am sure there is a treasure trove of communications with Stearns about the goings on inside that house and the period of Jen missing or Madeline missing.
Yep.
So there are charges that could be leveled against Jen Soto. She's been granted immunity from her statements, okay, and anything being brought moving forward. I don't know what she gives them that would justify that gift.
We don't know, Jarrett, any DNA yet, right? That has been found on Maddie, or do we know any? Because I guess that's
no. But the thing is, Stearns lived there, so her body was in the woods for 3 days, and again, so the rape kits could be compromised after 3 days, 4 days. But the other thing is DNA of Stearns, whether or not it was in the house or anything, he lived there, so DNA. But here's the thing: you got photographic proof he was molesting her and raping her. I mean, that's there. Yeah. And all his lies, like, I know it's Casey Anthony country. Don't get me wrong. It's
right.
Orlando kissing me. Like, I get that. So I don't know. What we don't know is what, in addition to the bullshit she was spewing during her interview, is she giving investigators at this point? To me, I saw nothing that would justify immunity. I'd just throw her on the stand and be like, yeah, did you let him sleep there? And if he said, or did you let Stefan sleep with Madeline? If she said no, I'd play the interview. Like, why are they giving her this?
I question this too, because I'm not a doctor, but everything points to the fact that she is very narcissistic. She may have been, I hate even saying this, like, I don't want it to come off like casual or like, but because so messed up, but she may have been jealous of the attention that he was giving Maddie, thinking that Maddie had, she's a fucking 13-year-old girl.
There were pregnancy tests in that house.
Yes,
there was a weird she kept track of Maddie's menstrual cycle. I don't think it was jealousy. I think there is a chance, and we've seen this, where someone would rather else take care of those duties in the house, and you could have a man around and not have to worry about, those kind of things. And that's, I think, whether it's jealousy or not, I think that's could be part of it too.
I mean, that's so bad. That I totally hear that. Jarrett. I don't want to believe it, but I feel like I just watched a movie that had this sort of premise. But
everybody was medicated to the nines in that house. Like, everybody, I was on Ativan, everybody taking meds. Like, I took once you start seeing mothers of murdered children saying, I had taken my meds, I can't remember this, or I was asleep. Like, you don't lie about little things when your child is missing. I always look back at right. He was lying about little things when his wife and son are executed out in the garages or in the kennels. Right.
You said, who is this?
Murdaugh. Right.
Murdaugh.
So when you see a spouse or family member lying about little things when someone's missing, you got big problems.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a telltale sign of, why are they lying? And the whole time she was protecting Stearns. If you look at the interview she did with the news it was the day after Maddie goes missing, Stearns is sitting behind her.
Isn't that creepy?
It's so
creepy.
Weird.
Oh my gosh. It's so creepy.
And she's no dummy. Jen Soto is no dummy. She thinks she's playing these detectives.
I agree.
And I wouldn't suggest she is. I would have recommended, and I'm not one of those like go for the throat people. If I go for the throat, somebody earned it, right? Yep. But I watched that and got frustrated that she was not pushed harder. It's a 3-hour interview. And I watched it and I was like, God, when are they going to go after her?
Yep.
And, and they did, but I would have pushed her more, because in the end, I don't know what they got from her.
Yeah. Well, it looks like, or it doesn't look like, but no, Stearns was officially indicted on a first-degree murder charge back in April. And then another update, I believe it was, yes, from July or June. It was June. I'm sorry. It was announced that they would be seeking the death penalty. So as of right now, the trial date is set, or there's a pretrial hearing for February 24th, 2025. And then, and that's just for the child sex battery case. And then there's another pretrial hearing for September 22nd, 2025 for the homicide case. So I'm sorry. And those are the actual trials, not pretrials. So he's got two different ones.
All
Sex
carrying
crimes and battery.
significant jail time too, by the way. But
what's that?
all carrying significant jail time. The bottom line, this would not have happened if it wasn't for Jen Soto and her ignorance or neglect of Madeline.
Agreed.
And she gets a pass here, which is total bullshit. Yes.
Bullshit. I completely agree. Absolute and utter bullshit.
He's going to face the death penalty, which he should, and she's away, which that angers me. But
it angers me too. It really does anger me. And, you know, I just think like we obviously weren't there. We weren't a part of this family, but you said it. She's not stupid and we're not stupid. So come on. Right.
Yeah, I don't. It's just I watched her body language. It was compelling. Anybody gets a chance, they're available on YouTube. Those interviews of Jen Soto. It's really, really. And I don't mean to be. I hate to be critical of police. They're doing a good job. I think these guys are well intended. I was just kind of yelling at the screen. I was like, I wanted to get up and slap her at one point, and him, and Stearns. By the way,
I know.
Not that I would have, but
you're not. Listen, you're not alone. We support the police wholeheartedly, but they're not robots. But yeah, every once in a while, it's really frustrating to watch certain things.
And you know what? Like as a parent, okay, I have a little girl not far from Madeline's age. If a third party or a stranger was snuggling in bed, I would burn the place to the ground.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
I mean, come on.
What
are we, idiots? Like,
yeah.
Are you out of your mind? If anybody's watching this and thinks that's normal behavior, you're nuts.
No, and here's the thing, like it's like knowing what we know now, yes, but when you do have somebody who has raised Maddie from when she, right? Like I think that at first you're like, oh, well, I guess it wouldn't be. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm just gonna say it. Like my husband doesn't sleep in bed with my daughter. Like if she is a nightmare, like, you know, she'll come in our bed sometimes, but like I'll be the one to go there. There's just something weird about it. I don't know. Like,
I could see a step parent or something. He wasn't even a parent to Matt.
Right.
This was all about, look, it went on for years. That's what this was all about. And it wasn't like they lived in some 5,000 square foot house. They lived in a very small situation. Maddie's bedroom was a makeshift room. There was literally a wall that was a partition that was movable. So, and I didn't mean to say there were locks on that door. There were locks on another door they slept. Her room was like, you can't say you didn't know what was going on there. Or you can say it, but you're an idiot for not knowing.
I know. Well, let's get to our last just update for today, because we're burning through this, guys. I've got some things going on today, and so does Jarrett, but we wanted to get all of this on the table. So let's just go to our last update. Laken Riley suspect Jose Ibarra chooses judge over jury. So really quickly, I'm just going to give a little background, and Jarrett, you got to explain what this means, because I'm like, what? So Jose Ibarra, he was the Venezuelan illegal immigrant. He's been charged with the murder and the rape of Augusta University student Laken Riley on the University of Georgia campus back in February. He attacked her allegedly while she was jogging along a pedestrian trail on UGA's campus, which was just very popular and common. And this was the morning of February 22nd. So he appeared in court. What's today? Today's Wednesday, the 13th. He appeared in court yesterday, November 12th, Tuesday. And his defense team and the state prosecutors, they asked for a bench trial rather than a trial by jury, and the judge granted it. So the bench trial will begin this Friday. And so I'll just read this quick quote. The defendant wishes to seek a trial by judge only, a bench trial, state prosecutor Sheila Ross said in court. When I was notified of that, The parties have executed a waiver of his right to trial by jury, and the state has agreed to a bench trial so long as the trial remains before your honor and no senior judges are brought in. I believe we will commence the trial very shortly, so I think that'll happen." End quote. So, Jarrett, it seems like they want this bench trial based on this judge who is Superior Court Judge Patrick Haggard.
Yes. So Judge Haggard will be the presiding judge over this bench trial. First of all, when a prosecutor hears a request for a bench trial, they're very happy. Okay. Not to say that juries don't get it right, but life is a lot easier when you have a bench trial. Think about it. You don't have to pick a jury. There's no sidebar conversations. Everything happens before a judge. The issues are simplified. You can get into stipulations with the defense, really streamline your case. Now, Judge Haggard has shown his hand here a little bit. Okay. Judge Haggard, in this case, in the Laken Riley case, Ibarra's charged with another crime. He was accused of being a peeping Tom.
That's right. I forgot about the peeping Tom charge.
Looking into a staff member's window.
Yes.
That case was brought under the same indictment as the Laken Riley murder and kidnapping.
Great call.
They tried to sever that charge. So the defense is like, hey, this peeping Tom thing happened at a separate date and time. It was a separate incident. That should not be tried. And it will prejudice Ibarra when you're looking at the Laken Riley allegation because it's perverse in nature, things of that nature. Like a peeping Tom is capable of, the inevitable conclusion would be if you are capable of leering at UGA staff members through a window, you're just the kind of guy who would attack, rape, and murder a student on the pedestrian trail.
Totally.
Judge Haggard ruled. Okay, so the defense tries to get that charge severed and separated. And the prosecution says, no, this behavior is inextricably linked to the conduct that led to Laken Riley's murder. Okay, Haggard agreed with the prosecution. He says, oh, that behavior is linked. So what does that tell me? He sees Ibarra exactly for what he is. He gets what the prosecution's laying down. Haggard knows. Like if a judge ever looked at that and it was severed, Haggard couldn't be the judge that presides over this case. It would have to be taken to another judge, by the way, because the finder of fact should know that information. That's an argument.
Right. Okay.
This is a long guilty plea. I'm going to tell you, that's what this is. It's a guilty plea for Ibarra. And you may think, why would his lawyers want to do this? Because they may know he's guilty. Okay. Ibarra may know he's guilty, but there may be legal issues they want to vet out in a trial that if he pled guilty would not be put forth and could not be appealed. What are those issues? The fact that this case was involved in the presidential election, his residency status, some kind of prejudice against whatever it is. Defense lawyers are saying, we'll take a bench trial in lieu of a jury trial and in lieu of a guilty plea to preserve issues for appeal. And I've had a lot of experience. I've had cases go to bench trial. They've all gone my way. Fortunately, we've had degree of intent trials and things of that nature. And every defendant that ever took a bench trial, I think, regretted it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think this could be just part of his, the language barrier type of thing, or?
No, because here's the other thing. So you also raised a good point. He's executed a waiver, okay, which would have to have been provided to him and read to him by a translator. And then you'd say, well, what does that mean? That means he's acknowledging he's foregoing his right to trial by jury. And he's recognizing that I'm not going to be tried by a jury. Judge Haggard is the one who's going to make the ultimate decision on whether or not I'm guilty or innocent. And in addition to that waiver, you can bet on Friday, if it didn't happen yesterday, the judge would say it's a good practice to do it on Friday if Judge Haggard's watching. You would bring Ibarra back in 8:30 a.m., right? Start and say, Mr. Ibarra, before we begin. I think
it is happening on Friday,
Right. So you would begin by saying, Mr. Ibarra, I'm holding this waiver. You know what it says. Is this your signature? did you waive trial by jury? As you stand here today, is it still your intention to move forward on a bench trial? Yes. This thing will be over by Tuesday.
Yeah, and he'll be so sorry. This sounds also dumb, but he'll be in a prison here, not back in Venezuela. They're not going to deport him.
No. I mean,
Okay.
He may be deported after any sentence he serves. There'll be an ICE detainer on him, but Ibarra's he'll be 1,000 years old at that point.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm just wondering, like, they can't send him to a prison in Venezuela. He has to be in the United States. He has to be. Okay, good. I trust the system over here. Gosh, imagine that. A little bit more than I trust Venezuela. But okay, so you know what? If anything happens on Friday, maybe we can hop back on for a live and go over that.
Yeah,
but
this is one we haven't talked about. I've certainly been following a horrible case. Horrible. What a beautiful young woman she was. And she was a nursing student. I mean, the whole world ahead of her to be, and this thing played right into the political, the hot potato political issue of immigration. And really, it was a major issue. Not that we're saying anything our people don't know. It was a huge issue in the campaign. And it should have been, by the way.
It is. And what I think people need to know, or not, I guess they don't need to know, but they need to recognize, I guess, is a lot of the cases that we speak about. And, I never want to get to the point where I feel like it's commonplace for me to talk about these horrific things just in passing, I guess. I always am affected by this, but I really have noticed it is not as often that we see these random acts of violence. It's a family member. It's somebody that knows the person, the child, the woman. It's like, so when you have these random acts like this that are so violent and so vicious, I mean, it's awful. It's awful because this guy should have never been here in the first place. But anyway, all right, Jarrett, this was so great to unpack all these cases with you. I hope we can jump back on and cheer for justice for Laken in a few days. But
I do too, and I expect to.
Me too. All right. Well, guys, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, share this, tell your friends, and we appreciate everybody listening. Bye.
Happening, you're trying to figure out ultimately what is
It's still a mystery as to why it took them